So this is a cool one. I found an article on T Nation. It's a little bit old, but about steroid cycles in the UFC, and at that time, Pride was still around. MMA, just in general. I'm by no means an MMA expert, but I have, been a jiu-jitsu hobbyist over the years. You know, I I'm not any some great phenom, but I go to jujitsu occasionally. I've had periods where I go regularly, but I'm a below average jujitsu practitioner. But I have been around MMA fighters and those types of guys, and it seems like PEDs would be a perfect fit for this group. I always joke about how there's no such thing as overtraining in bodybuilding. Most bodybuilders don't work that hard. They have this weird fear of overtraining. It is the exact opposite in martial arts and MMA. These guys will grind themselves into oblivion and then still think they're not working hard enough. So I would think anything that's going to help with recovery and conditioning would be very beneficial. Anyway, before we dig into this, please take the time to subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. I get a lot of people watching my videos, not that many people subscribing. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to get in contact with me or follow me personally, my Instagram handle, it is below, is Paul K. Barnett. You can also shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com. That is also down below. All right, so let's take a look at this. Trainer X, he's called here, supposedly works with a lot of top professional MMA fighters. T-Nation asks, are all fighters in the UFC juicing? I'd never say all. At the higher level of the sport, I guess 90% or more are juicing. I think many of them are using reasonable doses and not staying on all the time. Obviously, certain fighters have styles that are more strength-based, and they're likely to use more than the technical fighters. So that makes sense to me. The guys that are the heavyweights that don't care about weight are going to probably be using more stuff. In MMA, you want to stay light, make your weight class, and have as much strength as you possibly can at that weight. So you don't want to gain a ton of weight, unless you're a heavyweight. Those guys, those big pounders, then it wouldn't matter. T-Nation, so give us an idea of what kind of steroids a top MMA fighter is on. What's the ideal cycle for a brawler? Trainer X. Like training and diet, there's no best plan for everyone. I like to hear that. Different people need different things. That's, I think a good trainer will identify that and know what works better for certain people. Some people respond better to drier DHT-based compounds. The guys that tend to have higher conversion to estrogen, that carry body fat, and some people respond better to nandrolones. It just depends. Beyond 600, so the first guideline I like to follow is about 600 milligrams of total dose the first week. So it's a pretty low dose. Beyond 600 milligrams a week, it seems like the strength gains aren't much greater, but the weight gain is. Since we're usually looking for relative strength, I like the 600 milligram a week guide. In my experience, many fighters need even less. So that makes sense. Yeah, if you get into the higher doses, the super physiological, I guess these are super physiological, but bodybuilder doses, dudes are going to put on size. Size is probably not the best for MMA. You don't want to do that. Usually each subsequent week we will run 300 to 500 milligrams. Popular items are testosterone, equipoise, Anavar, halotestin, Tren, Winnie, make it into, but it depends on the fighter's response to the possible high blood pressure of Trenbolone and joint pain of Winnie. I would think, for me, just looking at this at a high level, I think at this time maybe the UFC wasn't tested. Equipoise would probably be a really bad choice because if you're tested, because I believe it can be, I'm not the expert on testing, but I've seen where it can show up in your blood. The metabolites can show up almost a year after quitting. Winstrol, I don't know. I mean, Winstrol always makes me feel like my joints feel like they're going to break. Probably not. I mean, I guess if you want that lean, hard, dry look, I know sprinters like it. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. For just thinking off the top of my head, MMA to me screams trend and halo testing. Two dry compounds aren't going to add a ton of weight, but make you aggressive as fuck. That's what I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Usually, let's see. So he goes on here. Let me slide down the page here. DECA is sometimes used too for its joint relief properties. A simple plan is to split the total dose between EQ and testosterone. All right, before I move on, yeah, DECA also is just like Equipoise, has a really, really, really long ester, and I've also read that it can be tested up to a year after using it. So probably another bad choice for testing purposes. I definitely could see the benefit for joint relief, although DECA tends to bloat you up. I don't know if that would be the best for MMA. Maybe if you needed the joint relief, maybe low doses of NPP, something that's in and out fast. Keep it really low, maybe like less than 100 milligrams a week. Okay, so back to this. He said, a simple plan is to split the total dose weekly between EQ and testosterone. EQ does seem to boost red blood cell count, therefore endurance. A good cycle length is 6 to 8 weeks pre-fight. If an athlete wants to experiment a little, I like to see them see a blend of 50 milligrams of Masteron, 50 milligrams of EQ. He says EQ propionate. Okay, so that, I've never seen EQ propionate. I didn't know there was such a fucking thing. Maybe there is. I've just never seen it. So if it's a prop ester, it's going to be in and out faster. That makes more sense. 50 milligrams of test propionate, also in and out fast. A shot 4 times the first week, and then 3 times each following week. Anavar could be added at 15 to 30 milligrams a day in the last 2 weeks before the fight. Maybe some halo tests in 10 to 20 milligrams per day. That makes sense to me. That would definitely dry you out. In the the halo testing would give you that aggression that you need going into a fight. Okay, so he goes on to say, I like this because I think EQ and testosterone have benefits for a fighter. I don't get to fighter, but I don't like to get the dose too high because the appetite can soar. Balancing them out with Anavar and Masteron seems to yield nice strength gains with minimal weight gain. That's probably true at those doses. You're not going to gain a ton of weight, especially if you're training hard, if you're on a restricted diet to make weight. And EQ does raise red blood cell count, which does raise endurance. That would be of an advantage. I know cyclists like it. So that would be of an advantage if you're going to need, a fighter that's going to be fighting multiple rounds. Pre-fight. Okay, we're going on here. Pre-fight, you need good feedback from your athlete as well as his strength and conditioning coach and technical coach. Is he gaining too much weight for his class? Does he feel tired? My golden rule is to do no harm. It's a smart approach. In no way do you want to mess up the athlete's fighting condition or his ability to make weight. You want a strong, fast, conditioned athlete who makes weight. Anything that'll hurt that is out. This includes any untested last-minute changes to the steroid plan or training or diet plan. He mentioned fast in there. That's, I was wondering why Winstrol would be used. Winstrol has a reputation for increasing speed. So that makes sense to me. All right, continuing on. Now, if I had the time of this athlete way out from the fight, we might want to gain some weight and learn some new strength levels. But I'm looking to help him recover and help him with his endurance, along with maintaining or maybe increasing strength and speed. In addition, this is what a lot of fighters have told me they like. I normally don't experiment with oxymetholone or methadrosanolone because they seem to do okay without them. I would agree with that. I've considered D-ball at low doses for some guys. I think that would probably be terrible. You know how I feel about D-ball. Problem is they don't like to stray away from what they know works. And can you blame them? It's not like they strike out in their sport. They get knocked out, arm locked, or choked out. So I want to use what's worked in the past. When he is loved by some, hated by others, again, it's personal preference. I don't recommend it to most athletes, but I trust experienced users who like it and leave it up to them. The main thing I like to remember here is we go to a max of 600 milligrams total per week, perhaps higher on the first week, but I haven't had a fighter go over 625 milligrams yet. Some other types of athletes I've gone up to 750 milligrams the first week. Methanolone isn't preferred because they're just better steroids that give more bang for the buck. I would agree with that. Yeah, the 600 milligram number is interesting. I mean, I guess it's because most UGL gears, EQ test, whatever, is dosed at 300 milligrams per milliliter. You know, that would make simple, easy math. I'm just guessing here. Give us give us an idea of some other successful plans you use. Trainer X. Some other plans I've used in guys are equipoise of 400 milligrams on week 1, followed by 300 to 350 milligrams each additional week until the fight. One fighter likes this exclusively. This is done well for him and increases red blood cell count and seems to have a positive impact on his conditioning. Remember, we said that EQ increases red blood cell count and therefore more oxygen in the blood, which equals more endurance. Testosterone with anastrozole at 600 milligrams on week 1, followed by 400 milligrams each additional week. Another guy prefers this and seems to do well with that. That's pretty simple. EQ might be better since it doesn't aromatize as heavily. I would think for a fighter, you want to stay away from things that aromatize. Although if you crush your estrogen too much, your joints get creaky. So I guess there's a balance to walk there. All right, continuing on. Test at 400 milligrams a week with 150 milligrams of tren on 1 week, followed by 350 milligrams a week of test and 100 milligrams a week of tren for subsequent weeks. I like Masteron over Trenbolone. A while back, I got tren. Tren got a great rep for keeping you lean and adding strength, which it does, but there's something about tren in high doses that seems to affect endurance. I called bullshit on this too until a friend and I tried it and noticed we were gassing out. Tren can be used, but I use it sparingly as it does raise blood pressure and can affect endurance. I guess what I'm laughing at is what bodybuilders consider a high dose and what MMA guys consider a high dose are two different things. 150 milligrams of tren is like training wheels dose for bodybuilding. Bodybuilders would laugh at that one. He does have a point about tren. Tren, anybody who's taken tren, it does affect cardiovascular endurance. I don't understand the exact mechanisms. I'd have to look into it, but anytime you take tren, your resting pulse rate goes up pretty significantly. 10, 15, 20% sometimes. Anybody that's taking tren knows that your pulse is constantly elevated, and it does seem to affect you on cardio. Like anytime on contest prep when I've added tren and I get gassed or get out of breath on cardio, so that is true. So, there goes my tren idea for MMA. I don't know. I would think I would want a little bit of it in there just because tren makes you so hard and it increases aggression. I don't know. It's just you'd have to experiment. All right. He goes on. Tested 250 milligrams a week and when he had 150 milligrams a week. I could see that one. Tested 300 milligrams a week and DECA at 100 milligrams a week. I favor EQ over DECA, but I've seen guys ask for DECA for its joint pain relief. I try not to go over 200 milligrams a week. You need to figure this out on your own, but you have to subtract the from the other adjuncts in the stack. Again, I haven't seen this, but I don't recommend it. I much prefer test with EQ. Yeah, DECA I love DECA for size, but DECA does tend to bloat you up, and it upregulates aromatase expression as well, so it's going to make the test that you use aromatize more. So, yeah. Let's see. Let's skip this part doesn't apply anymore. Growth hormone is used when available and affordable at 2 to 6 IUs per day for as long as the athlete can. I believe this is great stuff for rehab and general health. Many of them run a 5-1-2 off protocol just for cost reasons. I believe continued dosing is optimal if money is no object, and there's certainly a benefit from the 5-on-2 off protocol if you can't afford it. I've seen Serostim, Genotropin kits, and I expect Neutropin Depot preparation to become popular. Yeah, I mean, I would think growth hormone would be run year-round by MMA guys because of you're just beating yourself into the ground for the healing properties of growth hormone alone, if for nothing else. 2 to 6 IUs per day, those are pretty low doses. 2 units is almost hormone replacement level. What kind of ancillaries do fighters use? In truth, Trainer X says, in truth, most fighters ignore this stuff. To be honest, many athletes in general don't use ancillaries. Despite people trying to convince them, many just don't want to pay for them or feel it's too complicated. Fortunately, I haven't seen gynecomastia at the low doses used, and this is why I like certain underground testosterone with the Remedex mixed in. Most of these guys don't complain about HPTA recovery. After the fight, I usually take a much needed active recovery period and don't use steroids again until another fight comes along. So it seems like these guys just do short cycles before fights, and that's it. I could see taking a break after the fight. I would think there would be some benefit from being on at least a low dose TRT and GH protocol year round, because as hard as these guys train, and I'm telling you, most of them overtrain, I would imagine that their natural test levels are pretty severely suppressed from the overtraining. And I know a lot of MMA guys like to party too, so that's another problem. Trainer X says, personally, I'm a fan of HCG while on. I also like to use low doses of 250 IU 2 times per week, more if necessary. I hate Clomid for fighters. Clomid does suck, I think, for anybody. Again, if you have the time to experiment or the athlete likes it, great. But it can make it tough guys into, emotional tough guys. I like Remedex while not for post-cycle therapy, and Novodex tamoxifen while on post-cycle therapy. Sorry, he likes the Remedex while they're on. All right, that all makes sense to me. HCG, if you're only running a 6-week cycle, I wouldn't run it while they're on. HCG could fuck with, I don't know. It makes you emotional and feel weird. I don't know. I just don't think it would be conducive to being aggressive and hard for a fight. I would run it afterwards if you were concerned about it, but I would not do it leading up to a fight. That seems like a poor choice to me. T-Nation, can a guy be overjuiced when it comes to MMA? That's a good question. Trainer X, yes, MMA is not about size. In MMA, you usually need to be as strong as possible while staying in the weight class. That is very true. You also need anaerobic endurance. I'm the last guy to preach about steroids and side effects, but blood pressure is very common. Blood pressure issues is very common on 1 gram a week or more. That's also true. High BP, high blood pressure is a conditioning killer, so you need to avoid that. I would think an ARB would be perfect for an MMA guy. Something to deal with the blood pressure. Proactively deal with the blood pressure. He goes on to say certain steroids like Trenbolone are loved by some for the lean strength gain, but hated by others because it seems to raise blood pressure to a greater degree than some other things. I've seen a few examples of this. Another example happened a while back when a fighter got on about a gram a week of suspension on the advice of a buddy. Yeah, that's where you get yourself in trouble. That buddy at the gym that knows everything. He started this about 2 weeks before the fight. Not ideal. It's okay if you're a bodybuilder. It's okay to do this if it works for you. It's okay to do. It's not okay to do if you're a fighter. 2 weeks before a fight and never tried it before. Yeah, you're just going to get bloated up. You're going to get bloated up. You're probably going to feel like shit. Yeah, I don't know. It was really dumb. This severely affected his conditioning in the ring because he had gained weight, water, fat, and muscle too fast, and his blood pressure was probably too high. He simply hadn't practiced fighting in that condition. Remember, the energy systems needed for the support. Linemen, strongmen, powerlifters, and bodybuilders are a different animal, and higher doses that may work for them may not be best for fighters. Well, he didn't gain muscle in 2 weeks, that's for sure, but it was probably just all bloat and water. And he wouldn't have gained fat unless he was eating like shit. But yeah, it was probably all bloat and water, and he probably did feel like shit. All right, so trainer, T-Nation, we've heard about boxers using certain drugs to make them aggressive. Do your guys do anything like that? Trainer X, I like Halo for strength and the CNS stimulation it gives without the weight gain. I like to restrict it to 10 to 25 milligrams per day, 2 weeks, or even 1 week before a fight because it can make people a bit more aggressive. Some guys simply don't need to be more aggressive in their daily lives. That is true. Most people that are going to be fighting the UFC are probably already pretty fucking aggressive. Although I think Halo would be a nice addition. At the higher levels, you don't want them to be too aggressive too early because they end up making mistakes and gassing out. It's very individual. Confidence is essential, but overly emotional aggression can be a detriment. And we sure the hell don't need any more ammunition on the anti-steroid morons who cry about roid rage. Yeah, I mean, if you come running out of the gate like a wild man and you gas yourself out, I mean, that's one of the things they do teach you in jiu-jitsu is energy management and wearing your opponent out, get them locked up, let them gas themselves out, let them be aggressive, and then when they've worn out, then you go in for the kill. Anyway, if aggression is distinctly low, then halo testing can be used longer. Although I'd say this indicates another problem the fighter should want to fight. Anyway, the next section goes into supplements. I think this is a good stopping point. Just, to recap some of my thoughts. After hearing what he had to say about Tren, my initial thought was that Tren would probably be a good option, but maybe it's not, because Tren does negatively affect cardiovascular performance. So, something, I would think keeping things dry, just a basic test. I would definitely probably want to keep an aromatase inhibitor, maybe. I don't know. Test maybe Masteron, Winstrol. I can see the Winstrol for the speed element of it. Although Winstrol does make you, I don't know, it makes me feel like shit, man. It makes my joints hurt. That can't be good for a fight though. And Halo tested, just keeping it simple. I can see the what he was saying about EQ increasing RBC, red blood cell count. Although most steroids do increase red blood cell count, I know EQ has a reputation for doing it more than others, but that would be an advantage in a fight if endurance is going to be necessary. Anyway, that's all I got. I thought this was interesting. I wanted to share it with you. Anyway, have a great day, guys. Take care.